Hola.
Guess who's back? It's your
Guess
favorites.
who's back? Back
Back in.
again.
Yeah, I knew you were going there. I could hear it in the melody.
Couldn't help myself.
I am not complaining at all, actually. It's one of the things I love about you is I get to catch on to where your brain takes us for some fun.
Well, that's one thing it's good for.
It is good for so many things, but yes, fun, adventure, spontaneity, humor,
Chaos.
silliness, chaos. God. It's funny. I don't know when I started to describe myself as chaos, but it feels just so accurate sometimes. It's like, how could I not have described myself as chaos? And like today I am so chaotic. And I feel like I'm in a Disney movie. Like the Frozen when everything's spinning and she just like, whoa. But I haven't gotten to the whoa yet.
That's an important process getting to the
Yeah. Yeah, we're just gonna leave it at that. We don't even need to name it. But
Mm-mm.
how do you do it? Since I'm in the midst of it, when you're circling, chaotic, trying to figure too many things out at once, how do you get to your oh,
Honestly, I think my biggest coping skill is writing. Um,
mm,
I I recently stumbled across some writing that I did like way back in the day. We're talking like 2010, 2000.
ooh.
Yeah. And I found these poems that I wrote, and I was like, oh my God, I was very upset in these poems. And I
That's
don't even
funny.
remember writing poems. Like, what? When was I a poet? But
Uh,
apparently I was
2010.
back then, yeah. Um, and I found some other writings that I did, and I also saved letters, and I think you know about this, but letters from like middle school and high school, and just kind of been reminded of late how much writing has been a part of my life since, I don't know, middle school, I guess. So I think for me, writing has always been a way to process what's going on and organize my chaos. Like there's been many times, especially when I was first becoming aware of myself in graduate school, it would start out with me just feeling like I couldn't get a nice deep breath.
Mm.
And I would say to myself, like, huh, are you stressed? Are you stressed out? What's
Is
going
that you?
on?
Is that you over there?
So then I would go home and I would like write out what I was stressed about. And at the end of it, I'd be like, wow, no wonder you're stressed. This is a lot. You got a lot going on here.
Nice validation. Yeah.
Um, but prior to writing it out, I didn't even realize I was stressed. So,
Well, I think that's the point, right? Like the first place we always start with things is awareness. So if you're not aware that you're stressed or being chaotic, how are you supposed to? Oh, I'm sticking with it. I'm
yeah,
sticking with it,
great.
right? Like I know, like there's different ways that I experience different degrees of chaos. As you know, I'm a very like body felt sense person more than like a thought sense person. So like I sense hypervigilance, but I don't like there's no thoughts going on. Like I don't hear anything. Um, Occasionally when I'm applying it, like I'll notice I'm trying to problem solve different, not like different scenarios, but like if we're gonna try and do this, how would I make it work? You know? Um, but for the most part, like I just notice like there's a tension. I'm like very hypervigilant. I don't like to sit still. I can take deep breaths. I can feel centered. I can feel in control, but my body is like move, 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 move.
So
You know what
does
I mean?
moving help? That's the
Sometimes,
question.
sometimes it doesn't.
Okay.
That's the trick. It's like sometimes I'll go for a walk and that's exactly what I need. And like I have a mini trampoline over there and I tried that. Today, that was not what I needed. It was because my brain was, I guess, still in the and I'm still in the chaos, like it perpetuated the height almost. Like
Mm.
the breathlessness of the movement made it more chaotic. And in those moments, that's where like I have to almost do the opposite and like meditate, which I also did. And it helped, but it's just kind of one of those things like I don't know if it's necessarily something I can get out of because it's not an unhealthy response. It's just an unpleasant one.
Mm.
And I think that's
Oh,
the
that's
hard thing.
interesting. Yeah, that's a nice distinction. Um,
Like my body's responding how it should to a stressful circumstance. You know, like so for the listeners, my husband and I are trying to buy a house. We are putting a bid in, and now we're like four-way trying to communicate between our realtor, their realtor, the sellers, and then we also have to sell our house. So, bleh, all that. Um, and also trying to work at the same time while trying to coordinate schedules and figure it all out. So it's just lots of moving pieces, not to mention my never-ending to-do list that just is getting longer. So that's the circumstances. But given some of the moving pieces, like there's some financial threats, and our finances are heavily influential to our threat response. So it makes sense to me why my body is feeling more threatened and uncomfortable and hypervigilant. Like, yeah, there is a threat. You should probably check and make sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, right? And I have, but because I'm still in the midst of like the back and forth, which has been going on since like 8 a.m. So how many hours is that? Like 7 hours of it? Like it's just kind of like this perpetual waiting. You know what I mean?
yeah, you're gonna be at risk for adrenal fatigue.
Girl, I probably live in adrenal fatigue. No, I don't. But like my chiropractor has said something to me about that one time.
Mm, I'm glad somebody is. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
I'm really good at listening, so it works out well. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think chaos is uncomfortable, but I also don't necessarily think it's bad. And I think that's kind of the lens that we can explore because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like most people that I speak to, when they're struggling, when they're stressed, when they're chaotic, when they're overwhelmed, they label it as bad or negative, right?
Yeah, I think that it feels that way physiologically. I mean, for me, feeling like I can't breathe certainly doesn't feel good.
No, no one, I like air. Air's cool. Yeah.
So I can see where people would label it as bad. And, you know, as we just mentioned, being in a hypervigilant state for too long can cause quite the fatigue on the old body.
Mhm.
So I can understand where people would come from with that. However, I also think it isn't avoidable. Like,
Mm-mm.
not in today's world. We cannot avoid chaos in today's world. So,
Right.
you have a circumstantial chaos that will have an endpoint in
Right.
some way, shape, or form. But I think there are plenty of people right now. I was thinking while you were talking of a client of mine who is a legal immigrant. I just want to be clear. Um, and she is living in that hypervigilant state all the time right now.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, and that's not avoidable.
No. And it's
And
not unhealthy.
it's not.
It's very healthy, actually. Like that's your body responding how it should be.
Yeah.
It's how do we support ourselves when our body's doing what it's supposed to do, but we're struggling dealing with it.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, you're going to love and hate my answer. My answer is experimenting.
I
I mean,
thought you were going to say your relationship with yourself. It's got to be one of the two.
am I that predictable? Yes, I am. It's fine. Uh, that is home base, so like I don't disagree with
It
me.
kind of is both, to be
I
fair.
know how annoying, but I think like to that point, like how do you come home to yourself? Because I tried jumping on my mini trampoline, didn't work. Tried meditating, it kind of brought me back into a mindset that helps me.
Oh,
But
okay.
the body's still like, I don't like this. I don't want this. What's happening? Where are we? And it's like, it kind of reminds me of like when I used to date and like how I would regularly check my phone. Like, did he text me? Did he text me? Like, but like way heightened, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but the mindset that I've talked to you about this before, and I'm pretty sure I've talked about it on the podcast, but like the difference between abundance and overwhelm, you remember?
I don't think we did talk about it on the podcast. I think we talked about it in the car.
I mean, we
Same
just talk.
shit.
Same shit, different day. We should just record all our conversations. No, that would be dangerous. We shouldn't do that. But um, I came to some circumstance, however long ago, where I realized I was manifesting abundance but experiencing overwhelm. And I was like, well, what's the actual difference? Isn't abundance just like a lot, but like happy a lot is kind of how I thought of it. And so I started digging into the research. And ultimately, what I found is what overwhelm and abundance have in common is there's a lot on your plate. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought. But the key difference is in how people are interpreting it and the mindset they operate with through it. So when people are in overwhelm, they're kind of, it's like they have this filter of I have to do it all on. And so they're just like racing through, trying to get to everything, trying to be perfect, like very much not leading themselves, letting their ego lead. Whereas when people experience their allotness in abundance, the mindset is I do have a lot on my plate and I get to choose how I engage with it. And so after I meditated, I was like, right, I get to choose how I engage with it. Like, I don't need to check my text messages regularly to see what the realtor said. I don't need to try and find all my old tax forms and upload them for the mortgage letter and right? Like, sure, there's four other things I would like to do, but I'm in triage mode. And right now it's about prioritization. So that's kind of like what I've been focusing on for the last hour and a half. And I've taken some things off my schedule. Like tomorrow, I was supposed to have lunch, canceled that because I also have a speaking event this weekend that I'm now super behind on. So, organized chaos, spin, 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 we go. Woohoo. But I
So
get to choose how to engage with it.
true. I think one thing that helps me too is this I don't
Oh,
know how this is gonna land.
oh boy, here we
Um,
go.
but if I can think of you said that you noticed that you were in problem solving mode.
Mhm.
And in an anxious state, something that helps me sometimes is thinking, what is the worst case scenario and what would I do if that happens? And then I have a plan for the worst case scenario, and that helps me feel better. Now, there's some things that you can't do the worst case scenario with. Um,
Mhm. To your point with your legal immigrant,
yes,
right? Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But you
So,
can't, you don't want to go worst case scenario. That would only perpetuate your pain in that moment because
yes.
that when it comes to worst case scenario being potential life or death, it's not going to help.
Yeah.
But to your point, most of the listeners, most people, their day-to-day anxieties are more about what if I don't get to this on time? What if I don't get this? Like, and that's part of the conversation I've had with Scott as the communications have come back and forth. Like, he's been anxious and frustrated. I'm like, I get that, but like, what's the other option? And that's kind of my version of like, let me see the cards on the table before I take a direction. And sometimes people get annoyed with that because I ask a lot of questions to try and gather all the intel to be like, okay, so like, what are the options we're all willing to play with and how can we move forward? I think the hard part is like, I want the house. So, like,
Oh, yeah.
when I want something, I'm typically like, I will do whatever I need to do to get it. And then I pay the cost after. And I'm trying to be more mindful and more conscious of like, how could that impact me? What cost would that carry? How do I need to set myself up for success? What does support look like? I mean, hell, even before we got on this call, I was like, I might need your help with the dogs if we go to the elephant thing because we might be showing our house, right? So there's a bunch of moving pieces. And if COVID taught me anything,
Mm,
is that when there's a lot of chaos, if you just do your best and show up authentically, it kind of falls how it's supposed to. And I do believe, and the last 2 days, I've been kind of coaching myself into it. Like, if this is for me, it will find me. But now that I'm also in the decision mode, it feels like more of an analytical process. So I keep trying to bring myself back to the like, if it's right for me, it's going to happen. But I have to make decisions to see, is it actually right? So it's like where that line starts to get blurred of like, I
Yeah.
can't just be like, I don't know, what do you think? Like they need a yes or a no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if any of that made sense. Did it make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, it made sense to me. I was following, but
Cool.
I tend to be a little all over the place in my head too, so who knows?
Thus why we are friends.
Who knows how that sounded to anyone else?
I mean, we are talking about chaos today, right?
Why not demonstrate it?
Well, I think that's the other component of chaos that maybe is hidden, is it's not the only thing going on. Like I knew that I could have easily texted you and been like, I can't get on the podcast today. Like I have too much going on, which I've never done. So like if I did that, I trust that you'd be like, okay, is everything all right? Like check on me because like you're my main bitch. Um, but I also knew that you always make me laugh. You never judge. You make me feel safe. So sometimes, even in the midst of chaos, like playing and having fun and being with your people, like this is a moment in time. But this moment, this connection, I can be here and have that, or I can try and control things I can't control or try and problem solve problems that aren't there yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, I have two thoughts, and that's it, just two.
Damn it. I wanted like seven.
Um, the first one was related to the mindset thing that you were talking about. Um, I had gone to Amy. Oh, I can't even remember her last name now. Oh, you know what? It's probably on this paper. I had gone to this workshop on manifesting, and the lady who ran it considers herself Amy Westmoreland. There we go. Amy Westmoreland. She's a coach and she's a expert in manifesting. And one of the things that she said, like she was talking about the formulas that people um, discuss and talk about as far as manifesting is concerned. And part of it was letting go. And so the last part of her manifest formula is to say, I really, really, really want blank, could be this house, but I don't have to have it.
Hmm.
And
It's like, yeah.
that's like a version of letting go of it and saying like this would be really great. And it's so hard when you really, really, really want something.
Hmm.
But I've noticed, and I don't know, maybe it's just me with a little bit of ADHD, but I've noticed for me that things will feel very intense. Like I need this thing. And then like a week later, I'm like, oh, I barely even remember that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the language I use with that, and I've been practicing is like detachment. Like I want it, hey, but whether it's for me or not, maybe that's up to me. Maybe that's up to the universe. Like whatever is going to unfold is going to unfold. I can't really stop it or do anything. Like I threw my hat in the ring. I'm open. Now I just have to kind of live it. Um, there's another component here that came up for me, but you had a second thought, so I don't want to like sidetrack it.
Okay, I'll get the second thought out. And that is another word that has just been coming up on repeat. Actually, what I posted on social media today was a clip from our podcast last week where Deborah said community is currency. And I was like, man, I really like that. And it's a word that I just got this new client and he keeps saying it. He keeps talking about his community. And it's the cutest thing, I think. I don't really hear people talk like that very often. But it's interesting the synchronicities of like how it keeps that word just keeps
Dude,
coming up.
yeah.
I mean, even in research and social media, like I swear, like everywhere I turn, this word keeps coming up.
Mhm.
Um, Neuroscience, I mean, damn, it's everywhere.
It's
So
like when you buy a car, you never saw it, but then once you buy it, you see the car everywhere. That's like, it's that thing, whatever that's called. There's an
yes,
actual name for it, but I can't remember what it's called.
yes. So I think being able to lean into your supports and for my person that I had mentioned that's the legal citizen, uh she that's my best advice right now is lean into the people that you know support you because that's the only way I think that we get through this kind of chaos is leaning into the people that we know support us, that we know we feel safe with, that we know we can play with, but also be vulnerable with. Those are the relationships I think that help us through.
See, this is why I joined the podcast today. God, synergy. Just there are moments where it's like, oh, all those random moments of things that are just connecting. Like, first and foremost, like, yes, I've been hearing community all over the place. Given I also just launched the Challenger Circle, the community platform I was telling you about, right? So, like, I'm building my community because people are craving community and they want to grow together. So, yeah, if you want a community that's online for personal growth, check out the Challenger Circle. Advertise. Um, but beyond that, I think it feels a little more expansive to me. Like I don't think I actually understood the difference between friends and community until I moved to Tampa and like felt neighborly and camaraderie and like people investing in a betterment of Tampa. Like that's a lot of what I've gotten from the chamber is people wanting to build other people up. I've seen you do it with some of your network hosting brunches, right? Like just connection. It's just much, much more connection oriented. And ironically, the thought that I had that was like, I don't want to distract you perfectly ties in. So ready for, let me connect the dots, shall I?
Yes.
I do agree with you that community and leaning on our people is one of the strongest ways we can get through hard times. Um, one of the things my mom said to me last night after I showed her the house was, now, honey, don't get too excited. Now, why would she say that? Because she doesn't want me to be let down, right? Like, and it's not my mom's fault. This is very common.
I
Don't
would
get
love
too
to blame
attached.
your mom
I'm
personally.
sure you would, but there's no power in that. So, like, that one's mine. I want the power. Um, but ultimately, it's because she has a hard time dealing with feeling bummed out,
Mm,
as a lot of people do. So they practice a vulnerability shield called foreboding joy,
mm,
where they don't let themselves dream. They limit their excitement because they're scared of the fall.
mm,
And what I said to her is like, I know, mom, I know, but I'm gonna dream. I'm gonna dream because I can handle disappointment. And right now I'm excited and I want to be excited. And if that means tomorrow I'm disappointed, well, then the next day maybe I'll be excited again. Who the hell knows? Up and down we go. So thus is life, right? And she was like, "Okay, I just don't want you to like be hurt." And I'm like, "I know." And like I know what her strengths and weaknesses are. So like it's a loving sentiment. It's not anything offensive, but also it's a reflection of what her limitations are, which is her ability to deal with hard emotions, right? So it was one of the things that came up for me because then we shifted into vulnerability with community, and that's a vulnerability shield. Is trying to limit your joy, trying to limit the excitement. And when we're going through hard times, we're not limiting our hard times, we're spinning around our hard times. So we need to allow our good times because what goes up must come down, and what goes down eventually will come up again as well. That's one thing. The second thing that connected all the dots, stupid Instagram, ask someone, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done? And they said, ask for help.
oh, geez.
I know, right? But I think that's exactly what we're talking about, like leaning on your community, not armoring up around vulnerability, but being brave enough to ask for help. And ironically, like thinking about this weekend with the dogs or next weekend, I was like thinking through who I could ask for support, and I noticed my brain like having unconscious filters of I don't want to inconvenience them.
Mm.
And something valuable that I've learned is the gift you give someone when they can help.
Ah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I love helping people. How many times have you called me to help you? And how many times have I called you to help me? And like, it makes our relationship stronger because we did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that people, from my experience working with people, most of the time, people are afraid of being too much for other people and being a burden on people.
Mhm.
But generally speaking, just the simple fact that you're considering that means that you're not at risk for being that.
Probably, yeah.
If you're paying attention and being aware, there are ways we can draw back, if we are being too much for somebody. And sometimes we are, sometimes that happens. I mean, sometimes I am. I'll talk for myself. Um,
Not my
but
experience.
well, hold on, sis. Hold my beer.
I got you. Whatever you need, I think I got it. It's an adventure.
It is an adventure. Um, but I think also, for me at least, the way that I grew up, I think makes me think about those things differently because my household was always a place that people were at. Like people were staying with us or spending the night, or we were housing somebody for some reason, a foreign exchange student, a person who was in a transition. So, I think that I operate my house very similarly. Like if somebody needs something and I have something to offer, then I am more than happy to do that. And it does make me happy to do that. And so I think that I've always kind of brought that perspective to that type of situation. And I have been very surprised by how many people do not have that perspective. And I remember in my 20s, my best friend telling me that her parents emphasized the exact opposite, that you don't owe anybody anything and that you figure it out and that you don't ask for things. And if you do, you give it back immediately. Just like very stern rules around that. And it was interesting for us to notice that
Yeah.
gap in our experiences.
Well, I think community, right? Like, there's a lot of fake community of like give to get or with an unspoken expectation on the back end, which is part of why people struggle to ask for help is because they've tried the vulnerable route. They've tried to ask for help and maybe that person helped them, but then potentially used it against them at some point in the future. And then it's like, okay, so maybe I can ask you for help, right? And I think it's something we really do need to be sensitive to in relationships. When we feel unappreciated, sometimes we don't recognize when we don't communicate like we're feeling unappreciated, but instead we communicate like, I did this for you. Why aren't you doing this for me? It becomes transactional and ultimately takes the safety out of the dynamic completely,
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
part of it is a language issue is like we don't know how to communicate what we're feeling in a healthy way. And so we unintentionally will hurt people trying to say that. But I think that asking for help is really vulnerable. Like I remember, God, when we were in France for our anniversary and Milton hit and our house flooded, um, Scott was anxious and I just was worried about my people. I texted you, I texted everyone that I knew, like, are you guys okay? And like houses come and go, people don't, you know? Sure, the house is going to be annoying and stressful, but I'll get the fuck over that. People, I don't know, that's just different for me. I'm sure it's different for most people, at least I hope so. And in that, just checking in on people, one of my friends was like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, how's your house? And my house flooded. And so I told her that, and she's like, well, if you want, me and some of my staff can go to your house and like try and get rid of the water before you get home. And the first thing I felt was like a lock in my chest. I'm like, this is uncomfortable. That's way too much of me to ask someone, right? I didn't ask.
You didn't. That's what I was thinking. You didn't
Mhm.
even ask.
And I said, that would absolutely be incredible. Thank you so much. And then I cried because I felt so uncomfortable. And then I got
Oh,
home to a dry house, and I am so incredibly grateful for my friend. And then she came and brought her generator the next day so we could keep doing work. And I straight up hugged her for 3 minutes, crying. I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable receiving all of this from you. I am so abundantly grateful. I've never felt this vulnerable and loved and supported.
oh,
Thank you. I bought her a massage. I paid for meals for people. Like I tried to do anything and everything I could to pay it back because I was uncomfortable receiving love.
wow.
And I think that's a component of the asking for help is it's much easier to give. There's confidence, strength, nourishment in the giving. I think learning how to receive is much more exposing. It's much more vulnerable, but it's also much more connecting. And it's I think it's actually what helped me understand what love really is.
Yeah. I think, as you were sharing all of that, I was thinking of some of my clients who have not had good experiences with people, like you were saying, like throwing things in your face or
Mhm.
expecting something in return or, things along those lines. And unfortunately, I think especially people who've experienced a lot of trauma often become targets for being mistreated and um well,
Understood?
maybe misunderstood, mistreated, and I don't know, even betrayed, I think was the word I was looking for. And so they get to a point where they don't trust anyone and they don't want to trust anybody and they don't want to let anyone in because it's way too scary and risky and vulnerable. And I try to tell them, no, there's good people in the world. There's good people in the world. And there are, but there's also imperfect people. There's also we're all gonna disappoint. We're all gonna make mistakes. There's also people who will purposely hurt you and people who will purposely take advantage. And so that brings me back to that whole thing about safety that we talked about, that we've
Mm,
talked about in the past, that we want to make sure our community is safe and we want to make sure the people that we're asking for help are safe people. And that's hard to guarantee sometimes. And I think sometimes we are going to be disappointed and sometimes we are going to be upset by people's responses or let down.
mhm.
And that's going to make it even harder to want to do it again. But
Oh, yeah. But what's the other option, right? Going full circle into like what you were saying about worst case scenario, like when I've dealt with trauma, every instinct in me wanted to protect. And then ironically, I heard a song that said said something like you can't connect and protect yourself at the same time. And it made me realize I was craving connection while trying to protect myself. So ultimately, I'm asking people to come in while pushing people away simultaneously. And I think it's more of a like healing, like, okay, and different traumas, different experiences, like definitely learn your body, talk to an expert. Have you met my friend Alicia? She's a great therapist, by the way. You're welcome. Um, but it's learning when you're ready to try again, letting your body reset and learning who you won't go to again.
yeah,
And I think, it's really bonkers to me. Like I was going to say silly, I was going to say stupid, but it's just bonkers to me. The best definition I learned of trust was in a business book, and he differentiated it between the skill set and a character trait. There are so many people we know who don't have the skill set of taking accountability, of apologizing, of communicating what they feel in a healthy way, right? And then we say, I can't trust them. Maybe. they also just don't have that skill. Maybe you can trust them to watch your dogs or get the water out of your house when you're out of the country, but they might not have the emotional safety skill set. It doesn't mean you can't trust them, but you can't trust someone who doesn't have a skill set. If you ask me to be an interpreter for Spanish, you should not trust me to do that. I do not have that skill set. Does that mean I'm an untrustworthy person? No. It means I don't have that capability. And I think that's a huge distinction we need to recognize because sometimes what we do is we go to the wrong people over and over and over again, wanting them to be the right person, hoping they have the skill set that since the last time they heard us, maybe now they'll be able to. And we just keep getting hurt because we want them to be the person versus recognizing they don't have that skill set. We need to build our community. We need to lean on someone else. We need to set boundaries, you
Yeah.
know?
And expand. But I think with that comes experimenting,
My favorite.
experimenting with people and relationships and vulnerabilities and figuring out who's safe and who's who in your community and what their skill sets are.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. Um, it's not easy, but I do agree that like, well, this is gonna feel like a segue, but the most powerful thing that I've learned in my entire experience as a coach and a human being is when everything feels dysregulated and chaotic, remembering what it means to be human typically is what grounds me. What it means to be human is to connect, to lean on people, to be imperfect, to feel, to not judge yourself for the feelings, to ask for help, to get hurt, and to get back up and to keep trying. Because at the end of the day, like, what's the other option? Give up?
Yeah, isolation,
And what
depression.
does that lead us to? Like, that's if we give up, we get the opposite of what we want. So, yeah, take time, heal, process, sure. But like, if giving up is your best, that's fine, but don't be upset when what you get is the opposite of what you want, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the question, how do we identify safe people? But I think we've kind of talked about it. I think it comes back to experimenting and
Hmm.
allowing taking the risk essentially of like, okay, well, let's see with this.
Fingers crossed this one works,
Yeah.
right?
And like you said, if we're disappointed, then we might need a retreat for a little while and eventually come back. Come back to
Yeah,
the game.
back to the game. But I think like just observe. And like I'll say this much because I know we have to close up. When I'm trying to assess skill sets of people, first and foremost, I listen. Like when I hear my friends talking about a challenge, are they talking shit about the other person or are they able to hold balance for the humanity of the other person and also express how they're feeling? Like, are they character assassinating the other person because they don't know how to deal with their feelings? Or are they allowing that to be human and, talking about their feelings? Right? I think seeing that balance. If I hear people not talking about other people behind their back, huge green flag. If I tell someone, like for me, a huge important component, as you know, with relationships is if I do something that upsets you, because you know me, I don't know lines, I need to trust my people to bring it to me. And when someone does, it makes me feel so much safer with them because I feel like they care about our relationship. So I think part of it is like learning your specific trust signs. And when I'm like, okay, I got my green flags, let me actually like boop one in there. I typically do a boop that's I'm already grounded with, where I've gone to someone else, I feel stable. And now I'm saying, like, can this person also be a support system? Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to go in there as like, here's some fresh wounds. What you got? You know?
Yeah. Maybe don't lead with the most vulnerable.
Yeah. That's a great way to make sure that you can't be vulnerable because you'll get screwed over.
Yeah. Well, and I think that happens a lot because especially with trauma, people can't gauge. They have a hard time gauging. And so they just dump it and they're like, "All right, do you still
Yeah.
love me?"
Trauma is so tough to understand in the lived experience because every time I get a trauma trigger, I feel psychotic because I know differently, but my body is trying so hard to take me somewhere. And I'm like, that's insane. That's illogical. And there's so many times I'm like, Scott, stay the hell away from me because I do not trust myself right now. Like, whatever we touched, it's bringing up a lot of things that are like normally I can just regulate and shift and manage, but whenever it's been a trauma thing, like I'll think I've moved beyond something and then it hits and like I just get this huge incongruence. And that's one of the main ways that I now know, oh, that's a trauma trigger. And quite frankly, if it wasn't for meditation, I don't know if I've ever would have figured that out. Ever.
Yeah. Yeah, meditation was what where I thought we were going to go at the beginning of this discussion because
Adventure.
finding a place of peace within you is always an answer amidst chaos. But, you know, living in a meditative state isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. So I'm glad that we didn't just talk about meditation.
Yeah. Because chaos isn't one thing and neither is coming home to yourself. It's experimenting, using your resources, expanding your resources, seeing where you need further support, and trying to articulate yourself in a healthy way to value the relationships. Like people are gonna hurt each other's feelings. That's just part of being human. But that doesn't mean they meant to. And if you can lead with emotional intelligence, you actually create stronger bonds.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't even get into that, but my daughters
Maybe
are
next time.
learning to communicate with their friends, and sometimes I think it's just the cutest thing ever. So I
Mm.
will leave that there. But yes, very true. And I think it's easier to be non-judgmental of yourself if you can look at things as I'm just a human and I'm just experimenting. So I'm gonna give you that, Laura. I'm gonna give you
Laura for the win.
so thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.